Is Drake Maye being set up to fail, not just because of his offensive line, but because of his offensive coordinator? We'll examine here on Pat's Cast.
Coach Van Pelt gripping tight his playbook, spinning schemes, Jacoby cracking crooks. Should he put Drake Maye behind the line?
Welcome to Pat's Cast. I'm Brad Whitaker. Visit expressvpn.com/PatsCast. Get 3 months off of a 12-month annual plan. Again, that is expressvpn.com/PatsCast. And Drake Maye, we all want to see him on the field, hopefully relatively soon. And I think in all likelihood, we probably will, either because Jacoby Brissett won't be able to stay healthy behind that offensive line, or they're ready to put him in there. But I think it's safe to say at this point that Drake Maye is the better quarterback when it comes to competition between him and Jacoby Brissett. And that's been clear, in my opinion, since the last couple of weeks of training camp. But, it is easy to understand the approach that the Patriots are taking of not putting him behind that beat-up O-line, letting him learn from Jacoby in real regular season games, and making sure he has that knowledge before he gets out there. But at a certain point, the team is going to lose games that they might have an opportunity to win if Maye were out there. And that's not to say that once you put Drake Maye out there, he's going to play lights out. No, he's going to make a ton of mistakes. There's going to be growing pains, pre-snap, getting in and out of the huddle. He's certainly going to turn the football over more than Jacoby Brissett, who hasn't thrown an interception yet this season, even though there were a couple throws that he probably should have. But the chunk plays that Drake Maye is capable of making, that modern NFL quarterbacks, the good ones, make on a consistent basis, should more than make up for those mistakes that he's going to have as a rookie. And we saw that Week 3 Thursday night against the New York Jets, where Drake Maye made a variety of mistakes when he was brought in the final minutes of the game in garbage time. I think I counted 5 mistakes Drake Maye made on that drive. But guess what? They still moved the ball downfield better than they had all game long. Maye converted on 2 4th and longs, and that's something we just haven't seen in New England. 3rd and long, 4th and long. Patriots haven't had someone they can be confident to convert in those situations since Tom Brady, who made an art of it. Remember the 2018 AFC title game? Brady had 3 straight 3rd and longs in overtime, converted on all 3. Patriots won the game, eventually won the Super Bowl because of it. But they haven't been able to do that in quite some time since Brady left. Cam Newton, 3rd and long. They'd put a spy out there on defense to protect against the run. We knew Cam Newton can throw the ball downfield. Mac Jones out there, you might as well just punted the ball on 3rd and long. But Drake Maye, in those situations, can make plays, not just with his arm downfield, but with his legs, which he did on Thursday night against the Jets. The first 4th and long, he got a first down with his legs. And the second one, he made a nice throw to Demario Douglas, where he timed it right so it would be just out of the linebacker's hand in front of him, and hit Douglas for a first down and set them up for a potential touchdown, which Drake Maye might have had the Patriots actually called timeouts there and given him a shot, but they chose to not do that. But in my opinion, Jerod Mayo has wanted to start Drake Maye since week 1. This is my opinion. It may not be true, but when all's said and done, it's Alex Van Pelt, the new offensive coordinator, who is really running the offense. He's, in fact, been called the head coach of the offense by Jerod Mayo. So I think we know who's making the decision there. It isn't Jerod Mayo. It's some combination of the offensive coordinator and the de facto GM, Elliott Wolf, on when they should get Drake Maye out there. And the real issue with what's going on here, and why I think Drake Maye might be set up to fail here, at least as a rookie, at least under this offense that Alex Van Pelt is attempting to implement, is they're trying to run a West Coast offense with this new school wide zone elements that is used a lot in the modern NFL, that Kyle Shanahan runs, that Sean McVay runs, that Kevin Stefanski runs, and it just doesn't work in New England, or you can't make it work without completely overhauling the offensive line. And that would be a fine plan long term, but this is also a team that just re-signed Mike Owenu to a long-term extension. He's not quick enough to stretch the line horizontally, at least at the right tackle position. Maybe if you kick him back to right guard, he can play the wide zone more effectively, but you really need athletic tackles to make this work. And that's part of the reason they've had Vidarian Lowe out there when healthy, because he is the most athletic tackle that they have on the team. And Mike Onwenu, as great of an offensive lineman, as an all-pro caliber guard, and I know he struggled the last couple weeks, but he has shown that he can play right tackle, at least last season he did. He's not the most athletic guy out there, and he's not the guy that you want stretching the offensive line and creating gaps for the running back. And so much of the West Coast offense, the modern West Coast offense these days, is dependent on timing, rhythm, good footwork, which Drake Maye doesn't really have, although it's better. And that's not what plays to the strengths of Drake Maye. And Greg Bedard, who really kind of started this conversation this week about Alex Van Pelt and Drake Maye and the fit between the two, addressed this earlier this week on Felger and Maz when he said, quote, "I don't think Alex Van Pelt is ready for Drake Maye. I don't think Drake Maye is a good fit for his system. Not if he's going to be like what we've seen through 3 games, which is West Coast, wide zone. I don't think that plays to his strength. The West Coast offense is so predicated on precise footwork from the quarterback, the receiver, the timing, all that stuff. That's not Drake Maye. Drake Maye's more of a riff. I'm going to play a lot like Josh Allen." And I think that is true. And I know there's been some disagreements. Albert Breer went on 98.5 this week saying, I disagree vehemently with Greg Bedard. I think this system can fit any quarterback that you put out there. And look, I do really like Alex Van Pelt. He had a great run-focused scheme in week 1 and week 2. He probably had a great scheme last week, but they had to abandon it after falling behind early and start throwing the football, which we know is not a great game plan when you have Jacoby Brissett at quarterback. And also, Alex Van Pelt, he got a little too cute throwing off play action in the first series of the game against the Jets, and it didn't work. And that's ultimately why the Patriots found themselves in a hole, because they couldn't generate any offense early. They decided to get cute with it and abandon the run on the first plays of the game to try to throw the Jets off, and because that failed, they ended up having to punt the ball the first 2 series of the games. The Jets scored. They played well offensively, and that was all she wrote. And look, the players love Alex Van Pelt. Every player that's worked with him, especially Aaron Rodgers, has just raved about the guy. He's great with the media. I do enjoy listening to him in interviews. He has the aura of a head coach, even if he may never get to that point. But look, as much as we talk about the wide zone and this new West Coast offense the Patriots are trying to implement, Alex Van Pelt is not ideological about it. He wasn't exactly running the wide zone in Green Bay with Mike McCarthy and Aaron Rodgers. Yes, it was a West Coast offense, but it was more like the Bill Walsh Niners than what we see from modern West Coast offenses. It's more like what Mike McCarthy currently runs in Dallas. But then he went to Cleveland as the offensive coordinator, not the play caller, but the offensive coordinator under Kevin Stefanski, who the foundation of that offense depended on the stretch run there. And because Alex Van Pelt is not ideological at the two, which I like, he's trying to find kind of a hybrid between what he's done in Green Bay, the wide zone, new school stuff he's done in Cleveland, and the old stuff they've done in New England that plays to the strengths of the players they have on that roster. He's mixing in gaps and duos and power runs along with the wide zone stuff. And, you know, that those kind of schemes play to the strength of this offensive line. And that's what Ramondre Stevenson wants to do. And he's been vocal about it with these coaches. He wants to do the power run. He wants to run the ball right through the offensive line. And that's part of the reason they are drawing up plays for Ramondre Stevenson to kind of run the old school Patriots running game. The problem there is Alex Van Pelt, he's still mixing in bootlegs as opposed to just traditional play action, and defenses don't bite because the stretch runs aren't actually working. The wide zone has to at least be somewhat effective. Defenses have to constantly be moving side to side, worried about it in order for those bootlegs to work. And the Patriots run a bootleg and the defense just sits back and goes like, what are you doing? Like, you can't even run the ball in these situations. Why are you running a bootleg? And the play immediately breaks down. And as I said, the West Coast offense, at least when incorporating the wide zone scheme, doesn't work in New England. They don't have the personnel to make it work. Even if they did, it would take probably 3 seasons to get to that point where you completely revamp the offensive line, and then you look like the San Francisco 49ers, the LA Rams, or the Cleveland Browns out there. But that's going to take some time. And again, you re-sign Mike Owenu to a long-term deal. You don't have the personnel to run this type of offense. It doesn't fit culturally. Bill Belichick tried to do it with Matt Patricia, and they abandoned it by week 4. And because of that, that team, as much as we harp on how bad of an offensive coordinator Matt Patricia was, after they abandoned the wide zone and kind of went back to the old offense, they ended up winning 7 games that year. They were in the playoff picture heading into the final week of the season. But overall, it didn't work. They said, all right, we're going to modernize this offense a little bit, do what the other teams are doing, and they just didn't have the players to do it. So they went back to the old way of doing things. And I think that's what Alex Van Pelt is ultimately going to have to do. He's either going to have to put his foot down and say, we're running wide zone no matter what, and maybe by week 10 we have it down. Or he's going to have to completely abandon it, like I think he's slowly doing, like Matt Patricia did. And that's how they're going to have to win games. But the issue there, and I mentioned the bootleg, is does Alex Van Pelt have any tricks up his sleeve for play action if he can't depend on the wide zone? That's not how he coaches anymore, not since he was in Green Bay. He can try to go to the old school West Coast, like the San Francisco 49ers with Bill Walsh, with Steve Young, with Joe Montana. But is even that offense a good fit for this team? I don't think so. Ramondre wants to run straight through the line. The offensive linemen don't want to be constantly running east to west throughout the game. It breaks down every time. AVP is at the point now where he's probably thinking about his job security at the end of the season. He's going to have to concoct some new offense that he's never run before in order for this team to start winning football games, or just say, we're going to keep losing until we get the wide zone stuff down. And that brings me back to the decision to hire Alex Van Pelt in the offseason. Remember, he wasn't their first choice. They wanted Nick Caley, who's the tight ends coach for the Rams, and Caley turned down a $3 million offer to be the Patriots offensive coordinator and stick with the Rams as their tight ends coach and continue to learn under Sean McVay. But the thing is, even that decision didn't make a lot of sense to me, because Caley probably would have tried to run the same thing. He would have said, all right, I learned a lot with the LA Rams these last couple of years. I know I was in New England before, but we're going to try the West Coast wide zone thing and see if it works out. I think we would be in the same situation right now if Nick Caley was the offensive coordinator as Alex Van Pelt. The Patriots had this idea this offseason that out with the old, Bill Belichick, and in with the new, we're going to modernize this offense like Belichick tried to do, but we're actually going to be successful because we're going to bring in an offensive coordinator who's tried it before. And you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater in these situations. First of all, Drake Maye is essentially, and DeMarcus Covington, they're essentially running the same defense they did under Bill Belichick. So it's not entirely true. But on the offensive side, I don't know why they just didn't stick with what was working. And the thing is, there was a guy out there this offseason that they could have hired who would have fit like a glove had they brought him in as the offensive coordinator, and that's Josh McDaniels. He's still being paid by the Las Vegas Raiders. I think he's going to be paid by the Raiders for another few seasons. They probably could have brought him in at value, paid him what you were going to pay Nick Caley or less. And we all know what Josh McDaniels did in New England with Tom Brady, but this is a guy that turned Mac Jones into the best rookie quarterback in the NFL. He knew how to play to the strengths of Mac Jones. He knew how to play to the strengths of Cam Newton. You know, the offense looked a lot different under Cam Newton. Yeah, it was similar to the old Patriots offense under Tom Brady, but he drew it up in a way that played to the strength of Cam Newton. And even that team was close to being a playoff team while they were in salary cap jail, while they were recovering from the loss of Brady and having the personnel that was there to fit under Tom Brady. He kind of made it work with Cam Newton, and he certainly made it work with Mac Jones. He would do that with Drake Maye right off the bat, whereas I don't think the same can be said about Alex Van Pelt. And, you know, with all this hoopla the last few days about Van Pelt's offense not being a good fit for Drake Maye, we are starting to see a change in tune from Alex Van Pelt. Remember last week, someone asked Van Pelt if it's better for Drake to develop at this point by playing or watching, and he responded, I think it's still by watching, which is not what I wanted to hear, and I don't think it's what Drake Maye wanted to hear either. But then he had a press conference today, and here's some of the quotes that Alex Van Pelt said coming out of it. Drake Maye has looked really good in practice. We adapt everything to the skill set of our players. The quarterback is always the one we think about first as we game plan. He also said, this is a get the ball out of your hand quick week. This is something I've been harping on for the last 2 weeks. Scheme it up so Jacoby has quick routes to throw the ball before the pass rush becomes a problem. Rely on the quick game. Any offensive coordinator can do that. Why hasn't Alex Van Pelt been doing that? He's been drawing up these plays where they're running vertical routes or they're going off of bootlegs, and that's dependent on Jacoby Brissett having time in the pocket or being able to escape the pocket and throw the ball on the run, which he just doesn't have right now. But clearly Alex Van Pelt has rabbit ears right now. He knows what people's been saying, and that's why he's suddenly being very confident about Drake Maye. That's why he's saying our game plan plays to the strength of our players, and that starts with the quarterback. That's why he's saying now we're going to rely on the quick game. That's what we're harping on this week. I hope it works. I really do. I think there's some adjustments he can make there to make this offense at least somewhat competent, to make it easier for Jacoby Brissett, to make it easier when Drake Maye finally gets out there. But again, I'm looking back in the offseason and I'm saying, why didn't you just bring back Josh McDaniels? We knew it would work. We knew he would get the best out of Drake Maye, and he would probably keep it easy for him. Like, it wouldn't be this Tom Brady, I'm going to call 3 plays in the huddle and then pick one of those at the line, depending on the defense. Like, he's not going to do that. He didn't do that with Mac Jones. He would be more like what we're seeing over in Washington with Jaden Daniels, where they're essentially running a college offense, and it's worked out pretty damn well for Jaden Daniels so far. He has like an 80% plus completion percentage right now. He's on streak to have the best completion percentage through a series of games, not just for a rookie, but for any quarterback that's ever played. And that's because Washington is playing to the strength of their quarterback. Whereas I'm not sure Alex Van Pelt has necessarily done that with Jacoby Brissett, because he has been trying to implement what he learned from Cleveland along with what he learned in Green Bay, and it just hasn't worked out so far. So I think there's still some hope in Alex Van Pelt. Like, we're 3 weeks into the season at this point. They're probably going to lose on Sunday because they're playing the San Francisco 49ers, who are pissed off after a tough comeback loss to the LA Rams last Sunday. But we're looking at a 1-3 team, but then the schedule seems to get a lot easier starting week 5 against Miami without Tua Tagovailoa out there. But he's got to get it together quickly. And if this week, even if the Patriots lose, if they're starting to get rid of the football quickly and running quick slants and short routes and things that are going to make it a little bit easier and not have to rely on the offensive line to give their quarterback the protection he needs, if they're doing that, if the defense looks better, I know that's not Alex Van Pelt's job, but they can build something here and salvage this season at this point, especially once Drake Maye gets in there. But for all that Alex Van Pelt said in today's press conference, he hasn't shown it so far, and things are going to have to change quickly, or else we're looking at bringing in another offensive coordinator next year, which would be the 4th offensive coordinator in 4 years. And that's always a recipe for disaster because, especially for the quarterback, you need that continuity there. You need to be able to have Drake Maye build on year 1 with a similar offense. And, I would love for them to just bring Josh McDaniels back, but even if that's the case, now suddenly Drake Maye has to learn something completely new, and that might set him back as he heads into his sophomore season. So, offense is in a tough spot right now. They're trying to run something that doesn't work with the personnel that they have out there, and they're going to have to adjust. They're going to have to tweak some things and make it work and kind of go back to the Patriots offense of old. And I know Van Pelt isn't ideological about it. I know he's running the power runs and gaps and duos and all that stuff, but I think he just has to abandon all the wide zone stuff at this point because it works for the Niners, it works for the Rams, kind of works for the Cleveland Browns, but they also have an offensive line that is built to do that, whereas the Patriots are built for the power run, and that's going to need to change pretty quickly in order for Drake Maye to be successful when he finally takes over. But curious to hear from you. Let me know if you're watching on YouTube in the comments below. What do you think Alex Van Pelt needs to do? Should they continue trying to implement this wide zone West Coast offense? Do you like the hiring of Van Pelt? When do you think Drake Maye should be in there? What do you think about my thoughts on Josh McDaniels? I'm curious to hear from you. Let me know in the comments. And if you're watching on YouTube, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, or subscribe if you listen to the podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And unless there's any breaking news between now and then, we'll see you on Sunday when the Patriots take on the San Francisco 49ers.
Coach Van Pelt gripping tight his playbook, spinning schemes, Jacoby cracking crooks. Should he put Drake Maye behind the line? Offense stutters, play die, slowing time. Best cast was loud with words of fury. Fans debated, Van Pelt's lost his jury. Talk of change echoes through the halls. Should he tweak or let the scheme fall? West Coast clash, everyone does so. Will this offense lift or drag us low? Or beg and dream or make it grow? Past cast screams, just let us know. Smoke and mirrors don't fool the foes. They read the play call, each one knows. Rookies' nerves may start to fray in a scheme too big for brighter days. Van Pelt's tied like a heavy chain. Should he shift or face the blame? Light pierces through the dark refrain. Change the call, stay the same. West Coast clash, everyone does so. Will this offense lift or drag us low? Or beg and dream or make it grow? Past cast screens, just let